All right, it is Wednesday and it's time for literature today. Yesterday's poem was a Stephen Vincent Benet poem, the ballad rather, of William Sycamore. Today we're going to hear about one of my favorite poets, Robert Frost. Robert Frost was actually a very famous American poet and even was so famous that he spoke at John F. Kennedy's inauguration in 1960. Now, it didn't go real well. See, he was kind of old at the time and didn't have his reading glasses. And when you're asked to read poetry without your glasses, it doesn't go real well. There is a video on YouTube you can watch of that if you are interested in seeing that. Hopefully, you've already watched the video on the biography of Robert Frost. I had given you that link in the lessons explanation for today. Before we get into the poem "Nothing Gold Can Stay," found on page 276 of your textbook, I want to go through a couple other, probably more of his famous poems with you. I just want to kind of read this to you. Most of his poems are not very long. Many of them are about nature. And many of them are very descriptive, which is good timing since we're writing descriptive paragraphs right now in language arts. So, stopping by woods on a snowy evening, and I'll just read it, and I'll kind of ask you what you think it means. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. I want you to look at the rhyming pattern in this poem. The first verse, know, though, here, snow. So we would call this an AABA rhyming scheme because know and though rhyme, snow rhyme, but here is a different word. Then the verse 2, queer near lake year, again, looks like an AABA because of the last words, rhyme of the first two and the last lines. Okay, and so he does the same thing in 3, but then notice that all 4 actually, that's more of an AAAA rhyme scheme, rhyme pattern, and mostly because he repeats the last line. So what do you think this poem is about? The secret is in that last stanza there. So it looks like he's admiring the woods, right? He's admiring a beautiful snowfall, perhaps, but then he also realizes that he can't just stop and watch it, but he's got some obligations. I have miles to go before I sleep. Miles to go before I sleep. I have things to do. The Road Not Taken is another very famous Robert Frost poem I'm going to read. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Taking a road less traveled by. So in our lives, we have a lot of decisions to make, don't we? And sometimes, you can do things just because other people do them. However, sometimes we maybe need to make the choice to not do things that others do, but just kind of be our own person and do our own thing or do what we know is right. And that's kind of what Robert Frost is getting at. Sometimes the tough choices are the choices that are made not because others say you should, but because they're what's best for you. Nothing Gold Can Stay is the poem that we're going to be studying, and you're going to get a quiz on tomorrow. Hopefully, again, you've read the biography of Robert Frost, very celebrated, decorated poet. I read to you some of his most famous ones, but let's read another here. Well, we can just read this together. Nature's first green is gold. It's on page 276, by the way. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. Very timely poem right now as we're starting to see things green up outside. That very first line, nature's first green is gold. The first line seems to be a little bit of a contradiction. Because with the new shoots of spring, typically they're green, they're not gold, and this is known as a metaphor. Green is gold. If it were to say green is like gold, it would be a simile, but this is a metaphor comparing two seemingly unlike things. New shoots from the ground, yes, indeed, are often green. What color is the dawn? What color is the dawn? Well, first color of the dawn typically is gold, right? Or light colored. And then what happens to dawn in line 7? It goes down to day. So basically it's talking about the cycle of a day, right? There are a lot of cycles in this world. There's the oxygen carbon dioxide cycle where we breathe out carbon dioxide, we breathe in oxygen, and then plants do just the opposite. Right, so that's not a cycle that anyone made up or came up with, but it's a cycle that we find in nature. It's a natural cycle. Other cycles, well, sunrise and sunset, right? Birth and death are all natural cycles. Phases of the moon, those are all cycles. Okay. Look at the title one more time. Nothing Gold Can Stay. What word after reading this poem, what word might you replace for stay? That might help us kind of realize what this is talking about. How about nothing gold can survive? Nothing gold can exist. Nothing gold can live. Nothing gold can remain. So basically it's talking about the cycles and how things begin and things end. Pretty much the only thing that's not going to end is our life in heaven with Jesus, which he won for us just this past Easter. Speaking of the Bible, if there's a biblical shout out there, line number 6 there. So Eden sank to grief, talking about the fall of man. You probably got that one. So again, even the experience in the Garden of Eden had a beginning and it had an ending for Adam and Eve because of the sin. Now let's think of something else that's gold colored or gold. Okay, what are you thinking of? I'm thinking of popcorn kernels. Yeah. What does a popcorn kernel change into? Changes into a popcorn that we put in our mouth, right? Okay, so nothing gold can stay. So basically, things are going to change, right? That tree that we like in our front yard maybe is going to get cut down someday, or it's going to get too big, or it's going to fall over in a windstorm or something like that. Okay, so these are the thoughts behind Robert Frost's poem "Nothing Gold Can Stay." So just a couple more things to add to prepare you for the quiz. So while things might start out being very beautiful, these beautiful things will not last. Okay, and the author is just kind of observing this. He has an awareness of things changing naturally. And a lot of these changes aren't just acted upon by man, but they're just natural changes that happen in life. Now, just like the Ballad of William Sycamore, we would not call this a humorous poem, but it's somewhat dramatic, like many of Robert Frost's poems. And also remember that first line. You'll need to know that for the quiz. Nature's first green is gold. Okay. And then, and again, it's going to talk about how, this, you're going to be asked, does this involve humor? And again, that answer, just like in the Ballad of William Sycamore, is no. All right, so if you have any other questions or want to discuss Robert Frost's poetry any further, feel free to reach out and shout out. Make sure you watch that biography, however, if you have not done so already. Okay, so very shortly, sometime today, around noon, I'm going to be giving you the quiz for Ballad of William Sycamore and this poem as well. So I would encourage you to rewatch both videos just to make sure that you are prepared as much as possible for the quiz. You must complete the quiz by 10 p.m. tonight in order to be counted as present. All right. Hope the descriptive paragraphs are going well. And again, Robert Frost is a good guy to draw from to help us become better writers.